here in a second, but since we have a quorum, I'm going to go ahead and call us to order at 3:03. And first item of business on the agenda is approval of the minutes from October 29th, 2020. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion or change items that need to be changed? Nope. All right, very good. All in favor, say aye.
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 Minutes approved. Very good. Okay, we're basically still on the old news, but we're moving on the old news. So let me turn my phone off here so we don't have any ringing. So last time we approved the residential, Jordan went ahead with that one change, helped me with that one kind of paragraph about the electrical service that we had a question on. Got that finished. Those are now considered for us to be approved and done, and they are up on Dropbox. I did email them out to you just in case, so you could see, if you wanted to have them right there on your email, that you could see that we have those done. So I moved on to the multifamily commercial, quote, half of the guidelines. A lot of things are very much the same. And Jordan and I did spend time on Monday morning, Tuesday morning, going through paragraph by paragraph, Monday morning. So we're ready to do that same process that we did with the residential, with the multifamily commercial tonight. And Jordan's got it up on the screen for us. I've got mine here, so I'm going to be looking away from you as I look at my screen. The introduction, there were no changes. So if we scroll down to purpose and applicability, don't believe anything changed there. Eligible properties, now of course this was changed for, it no longer says single family homes and up to 2 units. It says multifamily properties with 3 or more residential units and commercial properties. That's the only change there, that one sentence. And also, I guess I should say the last sentence says, all these proposed projects must come before us for pre-approval and to obtain a notice to proceed. So that's a little different than the residential where we talked about the average, below average and above average prices.
That negates anything that's already been done this past year, right?
No, that piece is coming up, Paul.
Okay.
Yeah, that's coming up. No, you're okay. And I left that highlighted because I want us to have a specific discussion on that again. So.
Okay.
Oh, you're doing fine. So paragraph B there did not change. Obviously the tiers, the only thing that changed, was you saying existing structures, maybe instead of homes where we said that before. I changed the values up to $300,000. I don't even know how much a minimum project would be, but I changed those up just for the example purposes. Section 5A, documentation, same. And then this is, Paul, this is where we jump in on the project timeline. The first part is not changed. It is basically the part that's highlighted there in turquoise, blue, or whatever, that we need to talk about again to get a final on what the board feels on this. And this is whether or not to allow plans or projects that have been completed within a year prior to application being allowed for this abatement. And Jordan and I talked about this a little more, and I've thought about it some more. And I believe because my position is going to be that we remove this paragraph because the guidelines state that you have to have pre-approval for these projects. So because they are a major, they're a big project, they would have had to step through a process with us ahead of time. So I believe that I'm in favor of taking this paragraph out. Because I think that these are the projects, because of the way the EDIC and representatives from ISD and those things really felt, this is more structured towards the residential as opposed to the commercial multifamily. So I personally am in favor of removing this paragraph, but I'd like to have a discussion from the board members as to how they feel. And I'll let anybody jump in, whatever, when you get a chance to look through it, what you think.
Laura, what is your concern with this paragraph again?
So on the residential side, we said that we would allow projects to be considered for tax abatement that had were completed within a year before the application process started. So now that we're on multifamily / commercial side, because all of the projects on this side have to be pre-approved, I feel that I believe that after thinking through it, that we should say that these projects have to start now. They have to go through the application and pre-approval process. It cannot be something that you finished up within the last, let's say year ago, Thanksgiving, if that's when we start getting applications or something, that we are just focusing on. This is all going to be new projects, new applications.
And what is the reason to holding the commercial and multifamily to a different parameter than residential?
Are you referring to the approval process?
No, I'm referring to the year before.
Because all of these projects have to be pre-approved. So if we're saying that you come to us on, let's say, December 15th, and you have an application for something that you completed a year ago on a commercial property, that did not, quote, follow the guidelines, because the guidelines would have required pre-approval for that. And Lance, I'm sorry, Karen, go ahead.
To a residential owner who also comes to us on December 15th for applying for a project that individual completed a year ago, what would we say to them?
So residential, unless their value of their home is above the average in Jackson County, they do not have to seek pre-approval from us to go ahead with their project. So like my house, I'm not exactly sure what the average is, but I can guarantee mine's below the average. So I would not have to come to the board with a pre-approval to, do some of the residential projects. And this is not at all saying things like what's the word I'm looking for? It's not like you can just say, okay, you just go ahead and go. I mean, they're still going to come through the application process, turn in their application, get their inspection and all that. It's just that once all that is in place, the permits are ready and all that, and we've said we would give an automatic notice to proceed. We would not say, let's sit down and talk about this. Where do you want to build this? How many units are you wanting to build? You're wanting to build a grocery store. That's a bigger project. We need architectural drawings and engineer type things, and a lot of these projects they will be even bigger than that, because they may have to go to planning and zoning because of a rezoning issue. It's not going to be like I'm going to repave my driveway and fix my guttering type thing. So on the residential side, unless they're above average home price to qualify to get started on this, they don't have to come for pre-approval. But on commercial multifamily, absolutely has to come to us for pre-approval according to the guidelines. And Lance, if you could, I think you were in the EDIC meetings as the school rep. Is that correct? And could you weigh in on what your thoughts were?
Yeah, well, I went to one of them, Laura. I think Dr. Hurl was at the first. I went to the second, and I think that was a year ago in November. But I don't have a problem with what you're suggesting. I think certainly from our vantage point, I think we look at it through the lens of we're hopeful that certainly the citizens living within that neighborhood are going to take advantage of this, probably more so than big corporations. So I think that's what we'd like to see. That would be most beneficial to us.
Right.
If that makes sense.
And Jordan and I briefly talked too about, kind of just off the top of our heads, there's not a lot of places other than, per se on 40 Highway and the south side of 23rd Street, where these types of projects are going to come in, because we just don't have major areas in that,
Right.
that are going to put up another, big, huge office building or something, or I don't even see us getting another grocery store. I don't think there's room in that area for another grocery store even,
I didn't think so either. So.
Yeah. Paul, I know you had thoughts before, or Karen, I'm sorry, are you jumping in there? I can't hear you.
You're muted, Karen.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, but I'm not against what you're saying. I guess I'm playing devil's advocate. I think if, as you're saying, the chances of Nordstrom or someone coming in to build on 40 Highway is highly unlikely, we're pretty much probably, if there's any commercial activity, it's going to be pretty much mom and pop, small. And so that being the case, I'm not sure if we can hold them to a different standard than we would the residential, not above the average value. And I say that because I keep rereading that blight study that the council relied on in setting this up. This area apparently has a significant amount of blight, a significant number of renters, and I'm not quite sure. And the study noted that the average income, I believe, is 42 to 49,000. So I'm not quite sure this will be a somewhat successful project for the community in terms of reducing some of the blight. If the process is too arduous, I guess that's my concern. I'm not quite sure we can afford to marginalize anyone. And I'm open to what anybody else thinks about that, or based on what other programs have gone on. I mean, Jordan, you have been a participant, I believe, with 2 or 3 other programs. I'm looking at this area, not downtown Independence, the square, at this area. I just wanted to throw that out there. Like I said, I don't totally disagree. I just want to make sure we understand what we are dealing with in this particular community.
Right, and I'm going to jump in and then and I see Jordan, you got your thumb up there too for a point. First of all, to address, and Jordan will correct me if I'm wrong, to address what we can do. From my understanding and reading of the other 353s is that we can choose to do different. We can say multifamily, commercial versus residential is different, is my understanding, because we are an independent, corporation, and we can make that decision. Now that doesn't bring to the conclusion whether we should or not, but we can do that. Second of all, with the residential that we went through at the last meeting, we really pared down a lot of the, like on residential, we've come to the 1 or more. We didn't say you have to have trees or shrubs and things like that. I believe that that the residential side that we approved is excuse me, is as non-arduous, I don't know if that's the right word, as we can make it. If we make it any tighter, it's going to be, we just can't make it any tighter and still get in what we need to get in. And to your point, I do understand, and this is one of the very first things that I said to Laurie Wiley, who is on the EDC, or maybe chair, I don't remember, when this was brought up, over a year ago now. And I said, well, we live in an area where people don't have a lot of money. So if you don't have 10%, like say my house is I think it's 85 or 83,000 or whatever. Well, if I don't have $8,000 to put in it, I don't have $8,000, so I can't participate. But if you do, or if you're a person who owns rental properties and you presumably have that money, then you can do it. So I'm not, I don't think this is going to be the, I don't think we're going to have a groundswell of people, but we will have what we can get. Now on the commercial side, again, the EDIC and the council and all of that, I believe, is in agreement that the emphasis on this is on the residential side. They were not trying to create, and you can tell it in the plan. It is not directed towards commercial. So, and again, that lays out again what we can do and what we can't do. Because they're not asking us to say, they're asking us to focus on this as residential. But Jordan, let you jump in because I know you have a point. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. And maybe this will be helpful, and I hope it is. But think about this as a tax incentive, which it is. You're incentivizing private owners to make improvements to their property. If you think about this in a, when you do a TIF project, another incentive project, for commercial projects, there is what's in there, what's called a but-for clause, where that incentive is not given to a project unless that project wouldn't happen without that tax incentive. So if you think, and I know that's not specifically in this 353, but it's something to think about, that if we start offering these to projects, year-old commercial projects that were completed without even contemplation of a 353, and now we're basically, offering them an incentive for something they've already done. We certainly can't make an argument that this project wouldn't have happened but for this incentive, which again is not necessarily part of this, but it's just, we're not saying that those commercial projects aren't eligible. It's just that, we want to make sure that, this is the right incentive and this is the right project to be incentivized through this program. So that's kind of the way I'm thinking about it. And I hope that's helpful in some respects, that, a new project, a new commercial project, great, come forward, let's talk about it, let's review the merits of that program, but let's not be retroactively incentivizing something that was going to be done anyway.
And that's right, Jordan, I forgot that point. You had mentioned that. I'm sorry, Karen, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's a good point. And on balance, actually, I think generally speaking, when residential neighborhoods are upgraded, commercial usually follows, because that's the kind of neighborhood they want to set up shop. So to that end, yes, it is also another reason that this really, really focuses on the residential. So I can see it from that point also. Sure. And like I said, I'm not dissenting.
Sure. No, these are the discussions we have to have. Absolutely.
I'll just chime in here real quick. One, I like what Karen said about having consistency. We don't want to discourage even small businesses from participating in the plan. But at the same time, I see where it's going to have minimal impact. That's not where we're going to have the applications from. It's going to be from the residential area. And chances are we won't have a lot of commercial development beyond what we've already seen, or at least of not a significant size. So I'm not objectionable to taking that paragraph out either. So
Okay.
for what that's worth.
John, your thoughts?
I agree with all that. I think Jordan kind of laid it out and cleared it up. So for me,
Okay.
I agree with that.
Okay. Lance, did you have any thoughts other than that?
So I pretty much stated what I think our
Okay.
stance is. So
Okay. I think it sounds like that we are in agreement then that it is all right to remove this clause. Would that be?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to plan to remove that then. Okay. That was a good discussion. And absolutely, Karen and everyone else, this is what we're here to do. So I like the devil's advocate side because we have to look at all sides or we're not doing our due diligence. So, okay. So, compliance with codes, nothing in there, I don't think. If it was something minor that wasn't a big deal. Let's come back to fees. I know there's always one I like to skip over, and this time I'm going to skip over fees so we can come back to that real quick. Definitions didn't change. Variances, the only, I'm sorry, variances did not change, nothing in there. So let's walk through G. Basically, they have to apply. We give them all the paperwork. Then they're going to turn in an application with an application fee, which again, I want to discuss with all the fees. Then we're going to make sure their property taxes are paid. And because all of these properties are considered commercial, we will check. I put all property owners, business licenses with an S in parentheses because they may have multiple different types of licenses, I would guess, potentially like a liquor license or something else. Is that correct, Jordan? Or, I mean, that's maybe a small point, but yeah, okay. So we want to make sure that they're in compliance with, anything that they're basically needing to be required of them, including if rental ready inspections are required, that they are taken care of. So then we've checked the boxes and then they can, that next step says you can submit all of these items to us with all the pictures and, all the project for us to consider. And then we will approve, give that pre-approval. Once the work has been completed, city goes out and checks for permit issues. Then again on 6, now that everything is done, you're going to bring everything back to us again. We're going to look at everything. The city is going to have taken all the steps to make sure the boxes are checked off, taxes, licenses, requirements. And then under 7, same thing, we approve. And then 8, if you didn't, we'll tell you what we need you to do. And 9, you can go to the council if you aren't comfortable with our ruling. And then of course, A, payment of property taxes. Yes, you still have to do that. Periodic inspections. Yes, you still have to do that. And I'm going to, again, come back to the fee just to make sure we discuss that. Well, but let's, just hold that thought. Okay. Jordan, I don't remember where I added it now that I asked you to look at it, but we added a sentence saying that all architectural and engineering plans or input from an engineer and architect has to be licensed in the state of Missouri. I did go out and see that they have to be licensed and approved and things like that. So there is that in there somewhere. On A, what I did here for the required, how we call the required versus the wants kind of thing, I tried to make it look more like the residential, just in terms of, and they have to do all these things. This is not a one or more. This is all, okay? Structural repair, blight, basically you got to get your driveways, taken care of, looking right, looking in accordance with the requirements of the city. Same thing with sidewalks. Landscaping and exterior. We, of course, kept all broken windows must be repaired. Instead of going into the previous versions for fencing, it said you got to remove a fence and put it behind here and do this and do that. So we were like, no, all fencing needs to be must be up to the city's UDO requirements. So instead of laying all that out, they just go to the UDO for the rules there.
Mhm.
Same with landscaping, whatever rules there are. But we're not saying you have to, if there's something in UDO that says you have to put a tree somewhere, fine. But if not, just it has to be in compliance with UDO, which I'm sure it's not. I don't think they have to plant any trees for sure. And then the repair or replacement of peeling paint, all those little things on the outside that need to be fixed to remove the blight if it's an existing commercial structure. 3, smoke detectors, obviously. Architectural review criteria. We specifically referred to the UDO in there, which this is a little different standard than home, but the electrical service, basically they have to bring it up to code, and with commercial, they have to bury it if they're gonna, make changes there. Then the thermal things, caulking windows, weather stripping, all that. And remember where we left off 2 meetings ago was there was a point in there that said something about you have to replace, or it said replacing HVAC systems or something. And we're like, well, what if they don't want to? Basically, I put that under cost-effective energy conservation stuff. If it's make sure it's insulated. Consider those types of things, because I think all that goes to cost-efficient or cost-effective energy standards. So I kind of grouped that all up under there. Anything on the question in that section of requirements? No? Okay. And then eligible after all other, very similar, other than, for instance, number 2, elimination of health and safety hazards. That, because we say that affect the health and safety of the occupants, because obviously this is like a store, commercial property, or you have multifamily, you need to eliminate the health and, safety hazards that are out there. So we do say in there that it would be considered eligible into your cost that you fix those things, which I think is only right. Let's see. The handicap accessible is a little, is a little more robust, I believe. Flooring, tiling, tree removal, same as what we discussed in residential. And then 12 and 13, of course, are new, which would be putting in a dumpster enclosure or adding exterior lighting. And then on number 11, there's required painting, 1 primer, 2 coat, trims, and all those types of things, which is more extensive, obviously, than that residential side. And then in the commercial multifamily is a little different in that we have an ineligible expenses, and that's for common and routine maintenance. So you have a board missing on your fence. Well, now, and the reason that, again, the way we want to think about this is we're not tax abating a particular amount of what they spend. They just have to spend over a certain amount. So if they're over 10%, we're going to freeze the structure tax, property tax, base for 7 years. So if they have to spend $30,000, whether they spend $30,001 or $55,000, whatever. I'm not probably even making up great numbers, but you know what I mean? It doesn't matter in there. It's just once you're up over 10%, and then maybe you make it up over 25%. Or maybe they raise the whole building and start from scratch, which case we're then in the 3rd tier. So some of these things that we would add, it's not as though they're getting an extra tax abatement for that because of the way the structures are set, or the tiers are set, excuse me. Any thoughts or questions on any of that? If not, we'll jump up to the fees. And the reason I want to do that is when Jordan and I and Pat had talked, that we do need to charge an application fee because that's part of our, that's what we're doing some work here and that's what we're charging for. Let's come back to the amounts. Let's just talk about the categories first. The application fee. Then, we had under residential, the initial inspection fee and the final inspection fee, the $200 and the $50 basically per unit. Because these projects are going to go through, they're going to have to go through so much to do this, like planning commission, Jordan's department, Pat, all of the different things they're going to have to do. We don't necessarily need to turn around and have some other inspector who is normally inspecting residentials turn around and go out there and say, oh yeah, here's the money to pay for the application fee of $200, but the city and everybody, all these things have had to be crossed and dotted already. So she said that those have typically not had to have an independent inspector that is a 353 inspector, because they have to come up to all the city codes regardless of, and the city's going to have checked all those boxes for us. So basically there's the application fee and then there's that compliance fee, which we want to maintain that because we want, again, to be able to go out and check and make sure you're keeping up with things. If in year 3, you've let the fence fall down or whatever that issue is, then you need to get it fixed, or we, would reconsider the abatement. So we need the application fee and the reinspection fee. Now, the question came in when Jordan and I were talking on Monday is the application fee for residential. So for one home or a duplex too, we would say our application fee was $25 per unit. So we got to talking about this application fee. Is it $100 per unit? So let's say it's a car repair shop, right? Well, that's one unit, right? That's one building. If it's a multifamily structure, then there could be 8 units in there. Well, I think the answer is it's not a per unit on this side, because I don't think that they should have to pay $800 for the application. Again, this is not inspection, so this isn't like, oh, well, they're going to do 8 hours worth of work, so whatever it is, so we need to pay them more. This is just the money that comes into us for the consideration of something they're doing. So on application fee, $100 payable to us, not per unit, is what I'm thinking makes sense. So I want to just discuss that piece with the board members to see how they feel on that.
I agree.
Okay.
Agree.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Paul?
The only thought I had was we do have some duplexes and fourplexes and maybe even some more than that in our development area. And you can always put, say, maximum of $300 or something like that, or go along with what the rest of you agree with. And I don't have any trouble with that either.
And I think, and here would be the other thing too, to think about. And Jordan, you might have to jump in here and see if I'm putting another monkey wrench in it that we don't need. So let's say there's 2 apartment complexes that are each 8 plexes or whatever you would call it. There's 8 units in each of them, and they're owned by 2 different people. So clearly John Smith is going to come and apply for his building, and that's $100. And then the guy across the street, Chuck Jones, he's going to pay his $100 too. What if one guy owns both of those? Well, again, so that would be $100 for 2 big, multifamily. However, again, this is the application fee. This isn't this non-inspection. We're going to take some more time, obviously, to review these, but we're not being paid to do this. This isn't collecting money for us to be paid. This is basically, you're a bigger project and you want into this abatement. We're asking you to upfront the $100 to the 353. Are you okay, Paul? I think you said that. Yeah, okay. So I think that's fair enough. And then the 3-year compliance inspection fee. Again, I don't think it necessarily needs to be a per unit. I mean, this is going to be primarily a walk around and a walk, through the stairs and out. And also too, because let's say it's a car repair shop. They're going to have other things going on with the city that are going to be looked at. But it's one building per se. So it's a relatively easy thing to check out. If it is a multiplex family living, then of course it's going to be subject to rental ready inspections. So they're also going to be doing inspections, which won't be on the same timeline, but will be part of what the inspector can rely on to say, okay, we've gotten the rental ready, which is actually getting in and opening those doors and making sure there's, a carbon monoxide and a working fire in each of the units and all those types of things. So they're paying us to kind of come back and look and make sure you're still in compliance with the 353, but there are going to be a lot of people looking at them anyway. So we don't necessarily have a huge inspection. So my actual thought would be on that is to say $50, not per unit, just $50 payable to the corporation for each inspection. And in fact, what I could do is change that to $50 per inspection,
And I do want to remind everyone, I believe this is a 3-year compliance inspection. And I think the abatement time frame is only 7 years. So this would only happen twice for a property who stayed in all 7 years. So we're not really talking about, something that's happening every year. It would only, it would be twice over the course of the abatement period as well. So just something to keep in mind.
Any other thoughts on that?
No, I agree.
Okay. Good, Karen?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. So I'll change that to 3-year compliance inspections fee, $50 per inspection. Again, so like you said, it'll be $100 at the end of it through the period of it. So, okay. So any thoughts overall? Any questions on multifamily, commercial? And then each little place where I had highlighted the fees below, of course, I will go and change that to make it reflect what we've just talked about in that section. Okay. Hearing no further discussion, I will actually call for a motion to approve. Actually, I will make a motion to approve the multifamily commercial properties guidelines as written, with the agreement to change the fee structure as we discussed. Got a second on Paul? Is there any further discussion? Chris is not here to give seconds, so Paul he wasn't racing with her this time. Any other discussion? Okay, if not, all in favor, thumbs up, or Lance, give me a shout.
Aye.
Okay, very good. Motion passes. We've got our guidelines set, folks. I will make those few changes and email that to you all, put it out in Dropbox. And then Jordan's going to work with us. Next Monday is a study session. Yes. Okay.
I think so. I can't really remember.
I know. Tuesday felt like a Friday, and now I'm just like, oh, totally messed up. But no, I remember it was a session because I remember council comments. So, we'll be on it as a study session, but I think Jordan and I will work, and we will have it put on as an information-only item on the agenda for the council meeting a week from Monday. And I will plan to go to that meeting. So if they have any questions that they want to ask, they can, or I'm sure they'll let me know ahead of time if there's anything that they're wanting. And then just to kind of close a little piece on that, but is that I am working on getting us completely incorporated. It is a little, for some reason, Missouri takes a little more effort to do it under a 353 as opposed to other corporations. So we're moving on that. I'm going to be filing that tomorrow. So we're going to be all official. We're going to have all of our guidelines done. We've got our plan done. So given that we had great discussion and it's 3:45 and I don't have anything on marketing plans right now. I'm sorry, I've just been focusing on documents. I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to table marketing plans to the next meeting. Can I get a second? I assume everybody's in favor on that. Good. Okay. One other thing that I want to discuss and I'll be working on for the next meeting is all of the forms we mentioned. So the MOU, the notice to proceed, the application, all of those forms. I'm going to be working on that next for both residential and commercial. So I would like us at the next meeting to focus on, and I'll send them out with plenty of time to read them. So please give them a really good proofread for me so that I don't miss anything. I will also send out with that a spreadsheet, which I think I sent out for the last meeting, but I will update that. So you kind of have a spreadsheet to say, okay, these are the documents she's talking about. Here's that one that matches that. So it should be fairly easy to follow. The Fairmount Carlisle sample document, documents, application forms, and all those things. I will make sure that all those are out there on Dropbox if I haven't already, so that if you want to go back and compare to what they used, you can see where we got with that language. So I guess truthfully that would have been under new business, I guess. So is there any other new business that anyone would like to discuss? If not, let's do our calendar look here.
Actually, on that, Laura.
Yeah.
I do have, so last time, and this is something I probably should have gotten us on the same page on before, but because of the time of COVID and council mandates that we stream meetings when we can, instead of going ahead and scheduling a meeting officially tonight, we can talk about a calendar or, potential dates that work, but if we can hold off on scheduling, and then I'll have a chance to go back and check the overall city calendar and then get back going.
We're getting lucky in that this time didn't have to change, but like you said, there was some concern in there. So, okay, so let's look at what we've got, and we'll set a tentative date for Jordan to check on for us. So let's go to our calendars. Oh, good grief, it is going to be Thanksgiving before we know it. And let me tell you, folks, by Thanksgiving, I think we're going to have this stuff laid out and we're going to be ready to go and let's get some properties in here and let's do some moving. So we have leaned towards Thursdays at 5 o'clock. So I would say November 12th, in and out. Jordan?
It looks like it would be okay for now, yeah, from what I'm seeing on the calendar.
For current, okay. John, Paul?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good. Thumbs up, Karen?
Thursdays are a problem for me, so I'm gonna have to see what I can do.
Okay.
I have an ongoing meeting on Thursdays at 5, so let me see what I can work out.
Okay, and like I said, for this next one, I'm gonna get these, and it may be like I may send you like 3 documents at once, instead of waiting until I have all 9 or whatever it is, so that if you can't be here, you can, just give me any comments, notes, comments, remarks, whatever that we need to address, because this really now kind of moves more into what I call policies and procedures, as opposed to legal documents and guidelines and things that we really have to get approved. This is kind of our, operating policies now going forward. So probably something maybe that we don't even have to vote on, but I just want to make sure that everybody really gets a good eye on it. So, and then I truly think, after that, we will need to, after that next meeting, we can talk about marketing stuff. And then I think we should, so that everybody can be here, we should try to look at another time, because I want us to be engaged in that and working on that. So, okay. And Lance, how are you on 12th at 5?
I can make that work.
Okay. And so what we'll do then, let's put that down tentative, 12th, 5 p.m. Jordan will let us know either by an invitation, an evite, or give us a holler and we'll pick some other date. Does that sound good? All right. If there's nothing else, I will make a motion to adjourn. Come on, Paul. Oh, there we go. There we go. All right. As I always say, all in favor, say bye. Take care, all. Good meeting.
Thank you.